Hi, it's Tony Pelusi again, and today I'd like to talk with you about parenting coordination in Massachusetts and how it came to be in the state that it's in right now. Initially, when the work started to spread across the country and the world, individuals in the mental health and legal profession decided that it was a useful function for them to be able to bring to clients and families. So lawyers and mental health professionals started to practice parenting coordination. Fortunately, by the time that this spread to Massachusetts, there was an international association called the AFCC, the Association of Family and Conciliatory Courts, that was in place. One of the most remarkable and effective things that AFCC did was they developed practice guidelines for parenting coordination. And that was really the document that set the standard for how parenting coordinators would do the work with their clients. Obviously, they're guidelines, they're not mandatory, and there's a lot of individual differences in how people do parenting coordination with their clients. And I'll talk about how I do that in another video in this series. But in Massachusetts, there was no statute. The last time I checked, there were about 12 states that had specific statutes that said that parenting coordination could be used and it would happen this way. I think there were about 10 states that either by court rule or by some type of an affiliated statute, maybe an arbitration or mediation statute, they authorized parenting coordination to happen in their states. There was an attempt, probably for about 10 years here in Massachusetts, to have legislation passed that would establish the profession and maybe set up some guidelines and ethical standards for the work. But that legislation got stuck in the legislature because there was a strong feeling that parenting coordination represented an improper delegation of a judge's authority to a non-judge. So the legislation languished. That didn't stop people from doing the work, however. And what we in the profession say is we're basically practicing in the Wild West. There were some guidelines and standards, but there were no regulations. Anybody could say that they were a parenting coordinator. There were no training requirements and no standards of practice. Well, that changed. In 2014, there was a case decided by the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. That's the highest court in our state. And the case was called Brown versus Borne Brown. And for the first time, the court dealt head-on with the issue of, is it appropriate to appoint a parenting coordinator, and if so, when, and what are the circumstances? Well, the court recognized at that point the value that parenting coordination brings to the family law area. And what it said in the decision was, although in this case there was an improper delegation of authority, we believe that that problem can be solved. And we invite the probate and family court to establish some type of rule on this practice. Well, like I said, that was 2014. The probate court listened to the Supreme Judicial Court, and it put together a task force made up of lawyers, mental health professionals, and others involved, judges, and others involved in the family court system. And over the next 3 years, they came out with a standing order. So in February of 2017, Standing Order 17-1 was promulgated by the court. That standing order becomes effective July 1st, 2017. And I'll be talking more about the particularities of that as we go forward. The good thing about the rule, the standing order rather, is that it for the first time sets out what are the experience and training requirements that have to be met in order for somebody to be called a parenting coordinator. What are the continuing education requirements that they're going to have to do in order to stay involved? And what type of insurance and other qualifications are going to be necessary? How are the parenting coordinators going to be appointed and how will they be their appointment be terminated. So those are some of the things that we'll talk about in the next segment of this series. My name is Tony Pelusi. I am a parenting coordinator and a relationship coach. And if you'd like to learn more about the work that I perform, I invite you to visit my website, which is tonypelusi.com. Thank you very much. Have a good day.